Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. Today we're going to take a look at a game that I picked up on its second production run. It came out a couple of years ago, but it's also found a resurgence as new copies have arrived in stores. It is called Black Orchestra. Now this is a game that features a group of 1 to 5 players cooperatively working together to execute a successful plot to kill the historical figure Adolf Hitler before the end of World War II. It is a very rich game as far as premise goes, I think. It's very unusual as far as premise goes, for me anyway, to have a cooperative game of this kind of topic. And while it may come off to some as a little grim and not maybe the favorite part of history to go reenact, I think that you'll find it is up to the task of really creating the feel of a tense effort to try to take down Hitler and contend with all the possible ways it could go wrong along the way. But how would I know? Maybe I'll have to wait for the end of my review and see if I liked it or not. Anyway, let's get into some components and gameplay and review. Alright, so let's show you a bit of the game pieces that you can expect in Black Orchestra. There's actually not a whole lot of components, and the ones that are there fit nicely where they belong. You have the main board, and in this board you have Berlin, of which all of these are adjacent to each other. And then you have the certain other parts of Europe in the central parts, all the way over to Russia on the east. And in each of these spots, you have a number that says what turn, or what round, 1, 2, 3, 4 through 7. So, for instance, my travelers here, which can be identified as German Hans Oster and Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, are set up here and ready to roll, and they're represented with their colors here at the train station where everybody starts. We also have these items which aren't revealed at the start of the game but get revealed. Now, of themselves, most of these don't have any particular benefit other than certain plots require that you possess them in order to effect a plot against Hitler in the right conditions. Beyond that, you have a deck of cards, which hopefully you won't have to use very often, but you likely will at times, which is what happens while you're in prison. Then you're going to have an interrogation card in prison that will affect how you escape. Then we have the conspirator deck, and these have all kinds of different cards with benefits galore. They also have plots, so as you come up with plots, these are the only way to get plots, and so you never really know what you're going to get. You can't really plot a course. There's that, and of course you've got your handy-dandy sheet, which gives you pretty much everything in the manual, almost. It's almost completely distilled in this, but nevertheless, it's both there. And you have the Black Orchestra songbook. Kidding, it's the manual. And finally, you have these dice, which you'll be using a lot, because you will try to get as many actions as you want from these dice. Alright, we're going to go ahead and get started on a game of Black Orchestra. I have in my arsenal of people General Hans Oster, Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, and they are going to be the catalyst by which I assassinate Hitler. I just feel it. Anyway, to begin, everything you need to know is right on your chart. One player goes first, one player goes next. It just rotates and rotates and rotates. There's no sort of round per se. It's all, everybody takes turns and the game naturally flows through that. So let's begin. First thing we do is check for Hitler and deputy penalties. Now, if you start your turn somewhere where any of these deputies or Hitler himself is currently stationed, then you will have to suffer the consequences of whatever that particular bad guy or group of bad guys stipulates. For Goring, obviously, you have to discard an item. For Bormann, you can't actually use the conspire move. And I believe they do accumulate, at least I've been playing it that way, so that if you have multiple people in there, you have to suffer all their consequences. If Hitler's nearby, your motivation drops considerably. Obviously, he puts the fear of not God into you. And that is it. There's nobody there right now. We're just starting off. So General Hans Oster is yellow. He has these options available. He can take an action, which is usually something that you'll find on a card, collect an item. He can conspire, which is something we'll go through shortly. That's the only place you really use dice except for when you're trying assassination plots. Deliver items to places. Some cards will have you do that. Dossier. Move. Duh, that's an easy one. Release, if you happen to have a cohort in the prison over here, then you can try and get them released, because if everyone's in prison, well, nobody can do a plot, which means you lose. Reveal items, which means you flip these items over. And transfer, if you want to exchange goods between other conspirators. So those are the options available. Now the first thing we're going to do is, I'm going to have him move. I'm not saying anything about my strategy, I'm just showing you the game. But the first thing he's going to do is he's going to move, and it's his Berlin, he can move anywhere. He's going to move to Zieghoff. Alright, that's one of his actions. Now he's going to conspire. Now you can take as many of your 3 actions that you get a turn, and each one you can say, okay, I'm going to use all 3 actions and roll 3 dice. I'm going to use 2 actions and roll 2 dice. He's going to take a risk. Well, look at that. He gets 3 actions. So look at that. So for the cost of those 2 actions, he basically gets 3 actions. So yay! Look at that. Investment reaps reward. That's not all the things that happens in Conspire, though. Some good and bad things can happen as well. So he has now 3 moves. So he's going to basically reveal this item. And it's weapons. Doesn't mean much to him now, but it will be. And then he's going to take a card. And that's his second action. Slow news day. So he can choose to discard this card at any time without costing an action, and do not draw an event card this turn. He's going to go ahead and keep that by his side. That's his second action. And his final action is he is going to take the item. And look at that. Yay! Now it's a solo game, so he can actually have up to 4 items stored. Items, like I said, don't have any active value at the moment. They're necessary for certain plots, and you'll need to have them, and they are consumables. So we didn't do anything to change the suspicion or motivation. He's still timid, and he only gets 2 of these cards when he's timid. And he's done. Now he could use this and say, hey, do not draw an event card this turn, but he's going to, because he's going to show us all how it's done. Throw this back in the... So he's going to grab an event card, and what is it? Visit from Himmler. Ooh. Himmler unexpectedly arrives for a top-level meeting. Move Himmler to the space with the nearest conspirator. If there's only one conspirator on that space, that conspirator may roll a die. On a roll of 1, 2, or 3, they raise their motivation by that amount. On a roll of eagle, they raise their suspicion by 2. So we have no choice because both of our guys aren't together. So that's interesting. So we're going to put that in the current event over here. And we're going to find Himmler. And Himmler is right there. And the closest one is Zieghoff. Alright. Alright, so he's over there, and yikes. So he rolls a die, and on a roll of 1, 2, or 3, I can raise my motivation by that amount. So I'm going to raise my motivation 1. I'm now skeptical. I'm not timid anymore, I'm skeptical. Which means now, in a first or second player game, now I can have 6 cards. So I'm up to that point. I don't want to go back to timid, because then I'd have to discard any cards I earned otherwise. But that's it for the turn of General Oster. And we're done. So now we're going to go to Admiral Wilhelm Canaris' turn. Before we actually go on to Admiral Canaris' turn, one thing I wanted to mention are these special actions. These don't actually require an action, which means they aren't, I shouldn't probably call them action, but when you land on a space that has been exposed because an item's been removed, you can apply these modifiers. In this case, I could have, if I had a pair of keys, I could have used the keys item and immediately given myself -2 suspicion. So that's kind of a nice thing to do as you're traveling on the map. You not just want to look for locations away from bad guys, but also look for any locations that might provide you with benefits that would be contextually beneficial at the time. Okay, Admiral, what are you going to do? He's going to start by going all out, and he's going to roll 3 die. He's going to conspire right here, right now. And he gets 3, 3, and the dreaded eagle. So when that pops up as part of the conspire action, the first thing he has to do is upgrade his suspicion level. He's now at high suspicion. That means that any plot that he would attempt, if he would, when that time comes, which isn't, so right now he's probably better off being at high suspicion now than later when he's ready to take care of a plot. If he were to roll during that plot attempt in even one of these, it would immediately fail the plot. It might not put him into jail. He might be able to slink off and have nobody know really that he was part of it, but still it would mess with his ability to successfully execute a plot to kill Hitler. So, but look at that. 6 actions. 6 actions. So, he's on the train station. What's he going to do? He can only go in this area here, the 1 area, or Berlin, because right now we're only on phase 1, round 1, stage 1, whatever you want to call it. And so he's only allowed to go in here. And he wants to be careful not to land anywhere where there's already anyway, there's not a penalty when he goes through or stops at places with these deputies of Hitler's, but he doesn't want to actually start his turn in that regard, because that would then make him take the negative action, negative effect that would take place. So he might be better off going to Germany too. He's not. He's actually going to go to Edelhorst. Why not? 1, 2. He spent 2 of his 6 actions. 3 to reveal. Look at that. Keys. 4, he's going to take that item, and what should he do? He's going to go 5, 6. All right. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a lot of actions for him. And so now he's going to take an event. It is Visit from Goebbels. Goebbels oversees the latest propaganda efforts by local media. Move Goebbels to the space with the nearest conspirator, which will be, it's a tie. I haven't dealt with that before. I'll have to read up on that one. If there's only 1 conspirator on that space, that conspirator may raise their suspicion to high to raise their motivation by 2. Alright, so we set that over there. And I will consult the tome of book knowledge to see what to happen when there's a tie in the movement. Good news. I get to choose which one I want to go to. I'm actually going to move him right here. And I'm going to go ahead and not take that action. I'm not going to use the benefit because it says that I don't have to. Because it may happen. It doesn't have to happen, but we're going to stop there, and that's going to be the end of it, and take us back now to General Oster. General Oster starts the turn, which means his suspicion is going to go up 1, so he too is now at high suspicion. And now he has to decide, and you know what? There's no reason not to do a conspire. Oh yeah, look at that. So these 2 go up here. Now that doesn't help me with this turn per se, but it's going to help me in the long run. The descent track helps garner benefits for you. Once all 3 of these slots for the descent track are filled up by people rolling the dice and coming up with the crosshairs, they will be able to, they'll clear this out, and then they'll either raise a motivation or lower Hitler's military support, which will grow up naturally over time from event cards. You do not want a high military support for Hitler, because it makes it extremely difficult to execute plots if the military is on his side. So that's that. And I still get 2 actions, so hey, what the heck? What should I do? He's going to move out of here. He doesn't want to start the turn again. He's going to move here, and he's going to reveal this. It's a badge for future reference. Finally, he's going to grab one of these event cards. the Anschluss. If this stage's key event is in play, and it's not, that's a special thing that you'll play in the game will understand. Raise Hitler's military support by 1, just like we talked about. Move Hitler and Göring to Munich. So we raised the military support by 1, and then we move Hitler and Göring is down here, to Munich. So they both go down here now, look at that. Alright, now they're down there. Alrighty then. And that's it for that. And then we're going to go to Admiral Wilhelm Canaris. He too is going to roll. Let's roll. Ooh, look at that. He gets 4 actions. And look at that. We filled it up. So these go away and we get to decide. Do we want to raise someone's motivation or lower Hitler's military support? I think we're going to raise motivation. And then we'll deal with the military support later. He's going to go up to skeptical. Why? Because I'm going to take a couple actions and I'm going to draw some cards. Stalled investigation. I can use an action to discard this to lower everyone's suspicion. That's a handy thing, although this is not good to have in your hand if you get caught, because certain cards will affect it if you have illegal cards. Second action, devise plot. Reveal cards from the top of the deck until you reveal a plot. Add it to your dossier and discard all other revealed cards. You know what? I'm going to do that. That's my third action. I'm going to go till I get a plot. Oh, well, okay, I guess I didn't need to. But that gets discarded, and now we have our first plot. What is our first plot? Poison gas. I'm required to be in the same space as Hitler in a fortified space. Certain of these locations are fortified, and these are the ones that have the eagle in the castle. So, if I can be in the same space as Hitler in a fortified space, then I may have 1 die to roll to try to make plot attempts happen. 1 die is almost nothing. It's almost impossible without additional cards. In fact, it is impossible without additional cards. However, you can use multiples of this element. Wow. Alright, so, first off, if the person that's going to execute this plot is connected with the Oboer, this is a perfect card for this, then when he does this, he's going to get an extra dice, and now he's got 2 dice. Still not going to be easy. There's nothing that really will help him here. However, if he has poison items, as many poison items as he has will give him an extra dice. And if he has keys, well, looky there, Wilbur, then he also is going to get extra dice. So he's going to probably take some initiative to try and make this happen, because this is going to give him probably the best chance as possible for him to be able to execute this plot. He's in good position to do that. So that was action 3. Action 4 is he wants to get out of the way of Goebbels, so he's going to go into Sportpost. I'm sure I'm absolutely butchering these names. And that is the end of the first 4 turns of gameplay. Now we have to, well, okay. Sans this. Munich Agreement. Neville Chamberlain negotiates a treaty with Hitler. Yeah, that went well. Raise Hitler's military support by 1. Remove the next 2 stage 1 event cards from the game. Wow. So this, yeah, thanks Neville. Alright, so these 2 go away. These are out of the game. This is also the timetable, and so if you ever get to the end of the timetable here, and you haven't assassinated Hitler, you're going to lose from that too. So, not a good card. Not my favorite card. And that's the end of the first 4 rounds. I'm going to flash forward a little bit. I'm not going to do a whole playthrough, but I'm going to flash forward a bit, or fast forward a bit even, if I don't feel like being the Flash today, and get us to a point where we can see sort of a context of a plot being executed, rather than continue on with this. Hopefully I've given you enough of an example of the kind of gameplay to at least let you get a feel of if you're interested in this type of game or not. Okay, it's been a while. I've played the game. We've gone through some times. We've managed to survive thus far, and now Admiral Wilhelm Canaris is in the mode to be able to try and execute a plot if he can pull off and everything works right. He's going to start his turn He's going to go ahead and conspire. And he gets one of those, which goes in the descent track. And then he gets 3 actions. Is that enough? I believe it is. In order for his plot to take effect, he has to be in the same space as Hitler. Hitler has to be in a fortified space. First thing he's going to do, first action, is he's going to discard this card. And that's going to let everybody lower their suspicion by 1. That will help out. Now, over the course of the game, I had to get his motivation up to committed. If your conspirators do not have committed or reckless motivation, they cannot attempt any plots. Now that he's committed, he may use an action to attempt one plot in my dossier, which this is the one. All right. So he's got 1 action down. He's got 2 actions left. So what is he going to do? He's going to move to where Hitler is. Hitler's in a fortified spot, and he is ready to execute the move. Now, what is required? Well, he meets the initial requirements, so he gets 1 die. He's abware, so he gets another die. He has poison, he gets another die, and he has keys. That gives him another die. These have to be discarded. Sadness. He has 4 dice. We were able to, over the course of the game, get Hitler's military support down from where it was down to 2. So here's the point. This is where it all happens. This is the tension point. I'm going to roll these dice, and if I roll like only one eagle, then I'm fine. I need to roll 2 of these suckers, and then I'll be fine. All right, ready? And, well, look at that. I rolled 1. Thank goodness I raised my suspicion, or lowered my suspicion, or else that would have disqualified the plot. Wow. And I got the 2. So, wow, I did it. I actually pulled it off. That's rare. It's usually not that easy. I'm guaranteeing you it is not that easy. Because, oh. Wow, I'm not helping my case here. Wow. I think I should do more plots against Hitler. Holy smokes. There we go. Okay, forget everything I said. I really don't roll that well. Anyway, that's an example of a plot that has been executed. If in fact it had failed, there's 2 things that would have happened. If it failed, basically, if the number of the results was greater than the suspicion limit, in other words, if I'd rolled 2 of these eagles, then I'd be in jail. Just like you're arrested, everything goes awry. Yeah, heightened awareness is now the name of the game. If I don't roll that many, but I still don't roll enough success, then there isn't a penalty. You lose your items, but you can continue. I happen to get the great one, which is plot successful. Hitler is gone way ahead of the game. And that is an example of Black Orchestra. I think I've shown you the bulk of the game. There's other elements that come into play, but why not let you discover them if you choose to make this part of your repertoire of awesome solo or competitive cooperative games. Let's take a look now at my final thoughts on Black Orchestra. Okay, welcome back. Let's get into my final thoughts on Black Orchestra. Is it melodic, or is it just dark? Well, first off, let's get to things that I didn't necessarily find thrilling out of the way. Although I don't have a specific con. The one thing I would say that was a little jarring and is probably utterly inconsequential, but I'm going to mention it anyway, is that there's almost no ramp of introduction into the game. By that, I was really surprised. It was the first game I could recall in ever that had no actual intro. In the back of the box, there's a little tiny blurb here. When you open up Black Orchestra, you go right into components and setup. There's no, hey, this is what we're doing, this is the game. No fluff, no pluff. It's just, boom, you're into the game. Now, honestly, that's okay, and I think I know why they did that. it was just a little surprise. Like, usually it's like, hey, in the 1940s. The problem is it's so rich in history that I expected, like, hey, this is what we're doing, so many plots were going on and stuff. Nothing. You're just like, okay, get into it. But that's okay, and here's why. Because the game kind of lays itself out to be explained over the course of play through the various pieces, components, positions, and on the map, etc. And so I found that in context, each thing sort of added, like, and maybe it was a good thing they didn't want an introduction, I guess, to try to give anything away. That might be why. Usually there's some sort of goal or thematic framework that's described right off the bat to help kind of go, this is the big picture of what you're trying to do. Nothing wrong, just odd. Just odds with the rich historical context. But yeah, the cards have blurb, like little things that explain what's going on. The board itself has a lot of like details about it. I love that things explain themselves in this game. The cards explain themselves. The play sheets explain themselves very clearly. Even like Hitler and his deputies. You know, when you land on them, you don't have to go, that's Goebbels. What's his ability again? You know, thumb. No. It's on there. Everything's on there. What is this? What do I do when I get to this location? It's on there. When I move here, it's on there. Everything is explained. So it's very, very good at explaining itself. So that's my con, I guess. It's cool. Well, let's get into the real things I found exciting about it. One, I'm going to admit that I am not a huge fan of cooperative games in general. I'm not against them, and I don't hate them or anything. It's just I don't find them all that compelling for a couple reasons. Pandemic's okay. I can take it or leave it. I've played games and found them enjoyable. Just not something that's like, yeah, wow. Because usually there's a couple barriers that stop me from going, yeah, this is awesomeness. One is that there isn't a lot. There's some planning you can do, but generally speaking, you're at the mercy of the whims of either a deck being shuffled or dice being rolled, and like, I couldn't really prepare for this, and I really don't. That's not my personal penchant. I like to have enough control that if something happens, if there's a luck factor involved, it's one that I made the choice to take this level of risk or that level of risk. Whereas if something's like, okay, that cube, okay, well that started that explosion and now we've moved out, and I just don't find that appealing. I can't escape the feeling that a lot of the typical cooperative games I played have just been a well-organized crapshoot. And a lot of times they're also usually designed to be very difficult for the sake of being difficult so that people feel the challenge and that it's not too easy. It's good for really sharp people, people who are really analytical and critical. For plotters and meanderers like me, not so much. I'm more about the experience, and I like challenge. I don't like just brutality of gameplay. We'll play them and stuff, but I don't like a lose-win ratio of 10-1, for instance. I'm like, I want to feel some sense of success, or else I'm not really going to be that motivated for long to try the game more than a few times. With that, I think the Black Orchestra avoids some of those pitfalls that usually lessen my thrill. Conspire. That is an action. That's the one where you throw the dice and you get actions galore. You're just like, hey, did I win the lottery or did I not? And that one's actually really cool. It is a way to say, okay, you have your actions you can take, like, I need to do this right now, I need to move here, I'm not going to take a risk, I'm going to move here, and then I'll use my other 2 dice to conspire. Or, I'm in a good spot, roll the dice, see what happens. There is a chance something bad will happen, yes. There's also a chance something indirectly good will happen that doesn't map to just actions, and then there's a chance you're going to get mega actions. Sometimes you might even have more actions than you feel like you know what to do with in a game, and that's really rare in a co-op game. Usually you're action starved. You always want to do at least one more thing than you wanted to. And that's really cool, but it's at the same time a volatile feature, and one that you have to take that first step of risk to actually activate. And I like that. That's clever enough of its own right. Not everything thrown your way is bad. Some of the cards, as we saw in the example, will give you an option. Like do you want to take a drawback here to take a benefit here? None of them are just bad, and I like that not everything is just bad. I remember the Grizzled example, a great game with one positive card in the entire game. And I understand. It's like, okay, we did our fun stuff. Now let's see what punishment we get. This one, it's not so much punishment. It's like, okay, how are we going to position ourselves now? What's going to happen? Do we have, what? I just like that. That just hit me right. It's my type of mechanism for that. I like a little mix-up. It's difficult, and in fact, I think it's brutally difficult to actually pull off. And for some reason, I don't mind it. And I had to think of that a while because I just got done telling y'all I don't like difficult games for difficult games. But this one's intelligently difficult. You already know that if you're going to try and kill Hitler, which wasn't something to be accomplished in the real world history, you know you're in for a fight. You're in for a struggle, and it's the difficulty, yes, it's there, but you know what you're getting into, and there's also a constant suspense that I like, that isn't in other games. In other games, you're moving, you're kind of jockeying around for position and going, okay, what do we got to contend with next? This one, it's more like suspense, like, oh, I really got into the plot line here. And that suspense really carried me through the entire game, even when things were looking grim or bleak, or like, do I take this risk now? I mean, I'd really like in that one example, I'd really like to get one more poison item because each one of those gives me one more dice. I'd really like that because when I make that choice, like I've made that choice, and if I fail, it's going to be a harder road, and I know this, and so. It's kind of like a sub-battle. Like you're spending all this time in suspense, like gathering, maneuvering, moving around stuff, and then finally the Yamamoto's in your sights. You're like, okay, it's early 1941. 42. Are these torpedoes really going to actually explode when they hit the hull? That's kind of what it feels to me. Thematically impressive in so many ways. Everything about this game, every component feels impressive and immersive and wraps itself around the theme in such a way that you will be able to just play it and get involved without feeling like you're just playing a puzzle. It's a razor's edge. There's a constant kind of wariness of your surroundings where you're keeping track, and there's a constant wariness of the interest level the Nazi has in you based on their suspicion. Prison, I mean, I didn't show you that, but, prison, it's not the end, but it's definitely dangling you on the edge of the end if someone doesn't come rescue you or you don't find your way out of prison, usually at a great cost to other people. Like, do you really want to be that guy? The expanding, contracting map is genius. As time goes on, you get to move out a little bit more, but then also towards the end, you also have to move back because, the Russians are coming, and it squeezes back in. I thought that was just a subtle homage to the war as it played out. Solo is a breeze. I do not like to play multi-character hands. I just don't. I don't like the management of having to context switch in my mind between 2 or 3 characters. I like solo games that give me one player to play, not 3 or 4. And this is the exception to the rule in that the gameplay is so smooth and so quick that it flows naturally from player to player. It's like there's nothing big. There's no big roundup, no big end of round, cost, nothing. It's just like play your turn, play your turn, play your turn, play your turn. Rhythm, how are we going to do this? Is it time for a plot? Let's do it. Really like that. I definitely like that. And Bonhoeffer. What other game do you get to play Dietrich Bonhoeffer? Come on, that itself is cool enough. So I appreciated it. It's one of the easiest games to teach that I think I've seen in co-op games. I mean, there's very little that isn't already explained that people can go, oh, okay. Cool, I get it. So I've always felt like Philip Dewberry has been sort of a solid risk I would take on games that he creates. Just doesn't disappoint, and this is absolutely no exception. I think it deserves to be considered one of the best, or up in the top echelon of cooperative games that is both easy to get people into and play, exciting and tense during play, and even though you don't win a lot, you still feel and like you had a memorable experience with it. So on that note, thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games.